Karl Konrad and welcome to Australian Immigration News, proudly brought to you by Australian Immigration Law Services here in Sydney. It's been a busy week with state sponsorship updates and more has been happening behind the scenes as well. The media has been buzzing this week about the potential yearly migration increase to possibly 200,000 places per year as a solution to Australia's shortage of workers and economic problems.
More skilled migrants will be welcomed to Australia next year as the Prime Minister looks to fix the country's ongoing labour shortage. Lucy Hinton is following this story for us in Melbourne. Lucy, our yearly migration intake will be lifted.
Yes, Belinda, tens of thousands of more migrants will be arriving in Australia from next year to fill those chronic worker shortages being experienced right across the country. The federal government is proposing to lift the cap from 160 to 180 or even 200,000 migrants a year to fill jobs in areas such as IT and aged care. It's also looking to recognise more international qualifications and has proposed bridging training, which will mean that migrants don't have to complete years of needless additional study. Now, this policy will be canvassed at next month's Jobs and Skills Summit, with the federal government looking to introduce the cap raise in the October budget.
The Immigration Minister, Andrew Giles, on ABC's RN Breakfast program would not commit to any of these figures just yet.
Another element of migration, there are reports the government will lift annual migration to between 180 and 200,000 places a year. And the Skills Minister, Brendan O'Connor, says it's not a done deal, though. What are you waiting for? To tell us, what are we waiting for?
Well, as you'd be aware, Patricia, we've got the Jobs and Skills Summit on the 1st and 2nd of September, and this is a government that's committed to consultation. I'm engaged in consultation in the lead up to that with roundtables. I know my colleagues are as well. Indeed, I'll be convening my Ministerial Council for Skilled Migration later today. We are committed to listening to all the voices in this place.
Concerning a new possible visa category for regional Australia, the Minister held his cards close to his chest.
Are you looking at a dedicated visa category to encourage skilled migrants to settle in regional Australia?
Well, there have been a range of incentives in the past and currently which exist there. What we are determined to do as we look at the role that skilled migration can play in rebuilding the Australian economy, and by rebuilding I mean not just focusing on the crises that we need to address right now, but having a clearer longer-term vision of how our labour market will look like and the role of skilled migration in that.
Of course, the news of increased migration numbers spread quickly around the Australian community, creating various reactions in media circles.
So the solution to our current situation when it comes to our economy from the new government, they want to bring in more people to the country. They want more skilled migrants. They want to push it to about 200,000 people that will come in every single year. So yes, if you can do your maths nice and simple, in just 5 years, that's 1 million people. That's 1 million extra people in a place where already there's no houses to rent, where the hospitals already have got massive ramping issues in every single state, where schools are already full to the brim, but the plan is, let's bring in more people.
Many political commentators like Paul think we should build the infrastructure first and ensure we can accommodate new people before we invite them. Sort of like someone building something with the hope of attracting others.
If you build it, it will come.
However, many people like myself believe in the idea that we shouldn't be overextending ourselves and building infrastructure in advance and possibly sending us bankrupt.
Ray, when the bank opens in the morning, they'll foreclose.
In fact, we have so much infrastructure in regional areas already, but not enough workers to keep them going, as the former National Party leader Barnaby Joyce outlined on Channel 7 this week.
We have many towns now with just no doctor. We've got a hospital, but no doctor. Now, that's something that must be fixed.
One thing is for sure, because Australia is a field of dreams, no matter what the government does on the final number,
people will come, Ray. People will most definitely come.
They will indeed. But can the government even handle all the new applications when they have not been able to process the backlog? An overwhelming feeling of resentment is felt by onshore applicants who have contributed so much to this country already and then have to wait years for processing. A demonstration was held in Adelaide last Sunday by hundreds of visa applicants venting their frustration towards the government for prioritising offshore visa applicants. It is a very rare event indeed to see such a protest, and it has come out of the feeling of hopelessness of waiting so long and then being overlooked. The Minister needs to give some assurance of the priority of processing to those onshore applicants who have already supported the community for so many years, many of which have done so in regional parts of Australia. It's not only about trying to get more workers into the country to boost the economy, it's about looking after the workers who are already here and have given so much. Good on you all for those who took part in the event, and you can read the full article on the ABC website in the link below. The Immigration Minister Andrew Giles came under pressure this week to make a favourable ministerial intervention decision for another family, the Green family from Scotland. Their plight was highlighted by many media outlets recently after living in Australia for 10 years and failing to secure their residency visas. The father is a skilled electrician, but the issue which created their problems arose because the employers that sponsor them kept going bankrupt. The Australian media has been quick to latch on to the fact that the granting of permanent residence to the Nadius Lingham family who arrived here illegally has set a precedence. The inevitable comparison has now begun regarding people who arrive in Australia illegally and those who have used the proper visas to arrive.
We just need that fair chance so that we can then apply for a visa onshore, because just now we're on a bridging visa, which means we need to leave the country.
But how can you allow the Sri Lankan family to live in Billawheeler to receive a permanent visa after being here for less than 4 years and never being classified as legitimate refugees and came here illegally, while at the same time you order the deportation of the Green family?
We certainly hope the Green family will be showed compassion for Mr. Giles and they can be granted a visa to remain in Australia, hopefully permanently, but if not, allow them to lodge another employer-sponsored visa at least. The Green family case highlights the issue around employer-sponsored visas, which are still affected by what is called Section 48. Most of our viewers will know that if you're affected by Section 48, it places a restriction on your ability to lodge further applications when you remain in Australia. Since the 491, 190 and 494 visas were given an exemption from Section 48, it really raises the questions why not give employer-sponsored visas the same benefit. In many circumstances such as the Green family, many employees have found themselves without visas simply because employers go out of business while they're waiting for their applications to be processed. Now we can't see why Section 48 cannot be amended to simply allow 186 and 482 applications to be lodged as well. That would mean that if something happens to the applicant's employer, they will still get another chance to find a new one. Isn't that what Australia is all about? Giving people a fair go. So yes, Minister, we expect that you will do the right thing and allow the Green family to stay here permanently, or at least allow them to lodge another application. Since we are in dire need of skilled workers, it seems logical not to send people home on technicalities and let them try again if they find another employer to sponsor them. The Administrative Appeals Tribunal, the AAT, came under fire recently from the federal government's Attorney General. He is considering scrapping the AAT altogether. Now don't be alarmed, it does not mean that there will be no rights to review, it just means a new body may be created to replace the AAT. There has been considerable criticism of the AAT over the years and the former Liberal government for using the tribunal as a safe jobs for the boys club. Many former Liberal Party parliamentarians have landed cushy positions there rather than positions allocated by merit. Now the AAT is not as legalistic as the federal court hearing, but it does rely heavily on the principle of legal precedent. So it is important that AAT members have a good knowledge and background of legal principles. It will be very interesting to see if the AAT survives in its current format. Is there light at the end of the tunnel for those affected by the processing delays? Many of you will have noticed that in my comment sections of these videos, this is the #1 issue of concern, and rightly so as well. According to an ABC News article on the 10th of August, the Immigration Minister's office reported as saying that it could take more than 6 months for the government to work through the backlog. We are so behind in this processing that the light isn't clear of when we are going to get through this. It's going to be a good 6 months to a year until we are really going to be able to get a clear picture. We do recognise, as the Minister has already pointed out, that it does take time to train up new staff to make complex makes decisions about visa applications. I can assure you from past experience over the last 2 decades, you do not want a case officer making decisions on your file when they don't really know what they're doing. The United Kingdom has predominantly been the #1 position regarding Australia's population by country of birth. India, however, is set to overtake the UK in the next few years, according to the data released by the Bureau of Statistics. You can see by the graph that the number of Australians born in India has risen sharply over the past decade. Flying past China and New Zealand, it will take the top spot within the next 5 years at this rate. Have the British become bored with Australia? Let's revisit these figures next year, shall we? Well, that's it for another interesting week. Make sure you don't miss out on any of these fascinating updates by subscribing to our channel. As always, take care out there and I'll see you next time, so bye for now.